Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, a video game show where I'm joined every week by someone who would always offer her sword for your epic quest. It's Sema. Hello there, Sema.
General Kenobi.
What? Hello there. Hello there. You're right.
It's the only response to hello there.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right, Max. You do have my sword for any quest.
And you have my machete?
Yes.
Why did I say machete and you have my axe? Because we brought on Machete this week. Hello, Machete.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me back.
I'm so glad you're here.
So you've been on before. We brought Machete on to talk about some Lord of the Rings stuff. We've got a new Lord of the Rings game. But before we get to that, hello there. So I say hello there every single week. That's why it threw me off. I've been saying that for like 5 years now. Hello there. Hello there, Sema. Hello there. And you just throw the General Kenobi at me today? Wow.
Yes.
This is the long setup
yes, it is.
To throw me off. Okay. Return to Moria is a fun game, and we are going to talk about that. And look what I have here. What have we here? Oh, it's just the one ring. You know, you're not going to be able to see it. There, you can see it a little bit. Have I talked about this before? How I have to like cover my face if I want my, and it's not refocusing. If I want the camera to refocus, because it watches for your eyeballs, and if it sees a person's face, it'll focus on that. It'll first focus on that and not focus on other things out of frame, which is kind of cool. Anyway, I've got a one ring, which I actually couldn't find it before the show. I was setting up for the show, and I was looking around trying to find it, and I thought that was kind of ironic. Where's it gone?
I would be afraid to have the one ring.
My precious. Where is it?
I would be afraid of the Nazgul.
Yeah, well, I don't put it on very much. I keep it secret. I keep it safe. It was actually down here in the studio on the shelf, which makes sense. We will talk about Return to Moria, which is a fun game, but we do have a little bit of news to talk about first. So let's start with that.
Good news, everyone.
First up in the news, so hot this week. The hot game of the moment is, which we predicted, is Split Fiction. I know none of the three of us are playing it, right? Machete, you're not playing Split Fiction, are you?
No, I'm not.
You should play it because you have friends. Whereas I do not. I think you can play it online with other people, but you'd have to you have to get a gamer friend who is good at platformer action combat games.
And is willing to carry you.
And as good as you, and that can play a 12-hour game with you the whole time.
Right.
Which you would
Seems hard to set up.
Right. You would think would limit it, but they sold 1 million copies in the first 48 hours. 1 million
That's awesome.
copies.
Wow. I'm glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great for them because they make really good games. And I like interesting games that are different than other games. And this is one of those. And they've made the bold move to say, we're not just going to do a first person platform, or we're not going to do just a standard roguelike. It's going to be co-op, and you have to play co-op. And that's the way we're going to do it. And it's still working for them. It should make other studios, I would hope it would make other studios embolden them to take chances, which I would approve of. Someone else who's continuing to take chances is Microsoft. What did we hear? That Microsoft is allowing their new property, BlizzCon, Blizzard. I just gave it away. BlizzCon.
Yeah. So they announced a BlizzCon for September of 2026.
Yes, they did. September of 2026, but that's kind of far out there, isn't it?
It is a little bit, 18 months or so. BlizzCon has never gotten back to a yearly schedule ever since they started missing them. So I don't personally have an expectation that there'll be one every year, but it is kind of interesting to hear about it this far in advance. But then maybe that's part of their new philosophy too, because we already know about the next X-Pack and the X-Pack after that.
Yeah. I am glad to hear that it is coming back. I'm excited for Blizzard fans. It is weird though that it's this far out that they're announcing it. But as we were saying, sort of in the pre-show, yeah, they have to book these things. They have to be ready to have that kind of setup and runway to plan it. They have to have locked it in. And because people were asking this year, is there still going to be one? Are they going to announce one and have it this September? Well, the answer is no, but rather than just saying no, now they had the opportunity to say no, and there will be one next year, which is nice.
I mean, it is a little bit of philosophy change, right? Because every time they've had to lock things in this far in advance, and this time,
yeah, true.
They also said, told the world it's happening.
Yeah. This next news article I kind of liked. It's just a small one. We're getting more news coming out of the team that's making the game Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. That's one of the games that we saw the trailers for during the Game Awards, and we've seen it a couple other places. The trailer fascinates me. It's just really well done. It looks like a little bit of a movie of its own, very sci-fi based. I really like the aesthetic where it sort of mixes in. It mixes in like 80s brands into a very sci-fi games, and it was all Sony brands, wasn't it? Yes, it was all Sony brands. It's like the Blu-ray, the Sony disc player, the Sony VCR stuff, not in the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of way, but in a more imagine a retro version of those brands in the future. I'm probably not explaining it very well. No, wait, wasn't there also a Ferrari? I think the ship was a Ferrari ship. Anyway, the director of the game, especially around story, is Neil Druckmann. And Neil Druckmann is one of the directors who is working on the last two Last of Us games. And both of those games, if you don't remember, did have some controversy as far as how the story went and how the story was presented. So that is fine and probably unwarranted. And, just a lot of it's just artificial people wanting to argue and finding things to complain about and that kind of thing. Well, Neil is sort of leaning into that, and I think he's made kind of a bold move to lean into it a little bit, and I don't mean that ironically. I think it is bold and fun of him. So he's doing this new game, and he said, yeah, Last of Us, we have had some drama around the way we handled the story in those games, but, who cares? And, the joke is, with this new game, Intergalactic, we decided, hey, let's do something people won't care nearly about as much. Let's make it about faith and religion.
Yeah.
So I just heard that, and I liked the attitude of, we're going to lean into these stories. We're going to tell the story how we want to tell it and tell a good story. And if people want to complain about it or manufacture drama, that's going to happen sometimes if you tell a bad story.
And no matter what.
Care. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, be bold. As long as you tell a good story.
And the numbers show that more people loved it than hated it by far.
Right. So good on him. I think it's bold as long as the stories are well told, and he's had a good track record on that so far. Here's another one. Sema, why don't you lead us through this? Because I have a tendency to say what I think it is rather than what they're actually telling us that it is.
So Blizzard did post a thing today about a little bit about how decorating your house is going to work. So like in WoW. So in WoW, getting player housing was the big news sort of at the end of last year, because WoW has existed forever without player housing when every other game has gone that way. So they finally are going. So they posted a few videos about how decorating will work, and it looks really nice and flexible. And they put it together in sort of like a 2-step mode where you can just do it in beginner, which means that the items will not occlude each other. If you have a mug and you move it close to a table, it'll move up onto the table. You can then move the table around and the mug won't fall off. You won't have to also move the mug. The table will sort of own that mug. And you can put things on the wall and they won't like disappear into the wall if you get them a centimeter off or whatever. Or you can go into this advanced mode where you can do all that stuff. You can have furniture flying in the air. You can send a table through a wall, or a chair or whatever effect you're looking for.
Yep.
They also said that there's going to be like different flooring, different ceilings, different wallpaper options. And another thing they said too, which I thought was kind of interesting, is that there's going to be a die system for the decorations, which I thought was cool. And they said, which I love this too. They said in the article that the dyeing will only work on assets that are being created now and going forward. But decorations that are based on all old assets, you won't be able to dye them.
Right.
And what I thought was cool about that was, instead of saying, we can't dye because we can't do it with these old and people will complain, they just said, this is how it's going to work. And they just, if you don't understand that distinction, that's okay.
Right.
But the people who do might appreciate knowing that, which I appreciated.
SWTOR has sort of gone down that path with what's dyeable and what, where, what you can slot the different kind of effects into, the new effects, what mounts have, which you're right. That's a better way to handle it, rather than just like throwing up your arms and saying, well, we're not going to redo all this stuff, so let's just not have fun new things in the game.
Right. And I would be surprised if Blizzard ever got to a point where you could dye your armor, because there's so much sunk into transmog and how it works now, which is how you get different looks for your character.
Yeah.
And different achievements can get you the same armor set in different colors.
Right.
So if they introduced an ability to dye, I think that would just...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but dyeing decorations is pretty cool. Also, you mentioned this too, Max, I think it's interesting that we're going to be able to scale individual decorations. So if you want to make... if you want to make a dollhouse, you can scale a regular table deco down into a tiny one.
Yeah.
Or like the example they gave in the article was, if you could take like a bucket or a jug or something and scale it way down and make like a row of spice bottles for your rack in your kitchen or something. And I think people are going to just disappear into that activity.
Yes.
It'll be fun to see.
It opens up a ton of creativity. And I think I don't think that's what people are going to do. I don't think they're going to make, like, I'm going to make the big bottle small. What happens is, in a good way, what happens is people take a set of bottles and they scale and rotate and stack and clip them into each other and make an ice sculpture.
Right.
Or TTP. And they make
right. TTP we've talked about before.
Yes, time to penis. So because of this kind of system where it's very flexible, you can rotate, you can hover, you can clip. Yeah, people can make whatever they want, and they will make those.
Right.
Oh, the ERP dens that people will be able to make. Oh, this. I just thought of that. Now I'm terrified. There's pros and cons to doing it that way. It provides a ton of opportunity for expressing creativity, but they've got to understand that now people are going to be posting screenshots of World of Warcraft that are going to be completely obscene and ridiculous, and it will be a screenshot of the game, which I don't think they're kind of used to that. So it's kind of like their brand is now going to be able to be used as a tool to make weird things, and they're going to just have to deal with that. They're not going to be posting them, so it's not totally on them, but they are providing a tool to make that kind of content. The thing this is early. We just saw a blog post. The things at the end is what sort of tickled my interest. What did they say to us there?
Well, what I was going to say is they haven't told us yet about how we will acquire decorations. My sort of assumption is that it will be a variety of ways. Like there'll be some available from quests, some available from the store, some available from the trading post, which is an in-game thing, some available from achievements, some available from flashpoints.
Yep.
Some that you can create with crafts and sell in the player economy.
Oh, you think they'll do that?
Mm,
That's a good question.
yeah.
Because one of the things they said is, how do
Yeah.
professions fit into this?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people would love, and I think it would be interesting to have either the existing professions be able to make decorations or a whole new profession around decoration making. Other games have done it a couple different ways.
Yeah. I kind of foresee that if they do make it so that a profession can make a deco, it'll be like a handful of really common decos or something. I don't know. So they haven't said that. They haven't said the way they talked about this is that you could have as many rooms in your house. The number of rooms or the size of the inside of your house doesn't have to be reflected by the outside of the house. So you can have like a mansion, but inside is just one tiny room, or the other way around.
Right.
So what we haven't talked about is how you acquire the house. If there's going to be some sort of a land grab thing that has to happen. I don't think so, but that's how it's done in some games.
Yep.
Well, I mean, if it's completely instanced, then why does it?
Well, the land grab will be within the neighborhood. So say your guild gets a neighborhood, you're still going to have to pick plots within there. If you try to go in a public neighborhood, it will definitely be a land grab.
By land grab, I mean you only get the good stuff if you're there right in the very beginning. You're just saying you have to say, okay, this is mine.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't foresee a land grab in our guild, for instance.
Unless everybody wants the beachfront property. I mean, they'll be like the 20 plots. There'll be a couple on the ridge, a couple in the middle. They kind of like showed a couple of those layouts. And again, this is more speculation. We'll see. The land grab part is just only one person gets that plot that's down next to the beach. Only one person gets the plot that's on the top of the mountain. It's all of the kind of like neighborhood games, that's how they tend to work. That's what I'm expecting. So the only land grabby part is if you join a neighborhood late, you're just going to have to take whatever, of the 5 slots that are still open, that's all you get. If you want the slot that you want to be one of the first ones. So there is kind of like the little land grab, land rush aspect to any kind of neighborhoody game.
I don't foresee that they're going to have like how garrisons provided you with pathways to more gear, more power, more gold. I don't foresee that happening with this. So yes, some people might prefer one location over another, but it's going to be for their own reasons, their own sort of headcanon. Yeah.
And who you want to be your neighbor, and where you want to be in the middle, or do you want to be off to the side? But all just aesthetic, cosmetic. I agree. I don't think it will matter. Although I don't know if they're going to do plot size differences. That I would hope they don't, but that'll be something we'll have to see too. And then
Machete had a good question, which was, I mean, it would be cool if we could have like loadouts. Like, this is how I have my house set up for holiday season, and can I just swap to that? That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you don't have to like meticulously go through everyone. I wish they did that with SWTOR too, for like live shows.
Yeah, I do too. In fact, I've wished that before for Star Wars: The Old Republic, where you could actually share your loadout with somebody. Like I could go to someone's stronghold and go, "Oh, this is cool. Can I steal this from my stronghold?" Because mine is completely undecorated.
And just a quick side comment. You're on the show, Machete. You don't have to type in chat.
You can just out loud.
Reading out of the chat. I'm like, what do you mean, Machete said? He's like typing in chat.
I didn't want to cut you.
No, just jump right in. That's how you got to do it. Otherwise, I will talk to fill up all dead air space. My broadcaster mind hates dead air. You have to cut me off.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a great idea.
Anyway, we should move on.
Yeah. We'll talk about more as it comes out, because this raises more questions for me than it answers in a good way. So
for sure.
We'll continue to watch this as it develops throughout the year. Final thing on WoW, though, before we leave WoW, Sema, did you try the new raid? Did you get there?
We did. We went in the new raid. There's 8 bosses. We actually killed 6 of them.
Okay. First time through?
Yes.
Did you one-shot all 6?
No, we did not. But,
Well, I mean,
but we
I would
one-shot
hope
some
not.
of them. And also, that's not an uncommon, I don't think that's uncommon. I think a lot of raid teams sort of in our, that are similar to us or better have gone on and gotten 6 or 7 bosses. I don't know. So anyway, here's what I have to say about the boss. The raid itself is fun. Every detail is fun. The bosses are they're lethal, but they have a whimsy to them too. Like, I'll just tell you some of the boss names. Like the first boss in there is called Vexy Full Throttle and the Gear Grinders.
Is that a band?
I guess. I mean, yes. And there's Rick Reverb. There's also a boss called Sprocket Monger Lockenstock.
Nice.
There's one boss that is called One Armed Bandit, and he actually is a one-armed bandit.
I did hear
like
about
the
that
machine.
too, an actual slot machine that you fight.
And it plays on a similar idea to a boss fight that's in Star Wars: The Old Republic, where you pick up various coins and then you use them as that you determine what attack what mechanic the boss is going to use next. In Star Wars, you pick up the coins and you use it to whittle down the adds that you'll face, but it's a similar idea.
Yeah. Okay. So you're like, like the batteries you're thinking of, and
no, like the one where you have to click on you get a coin and you have to go click on the little coin machine.
Right. And
the droids downstairs.
Scum and Villainy.
Scum and Villainy, yes. And then the last boss, which is Chrome King Gallywix, that's available in story mode.
I'm not even going to click on that one because there's secrets associated with that boss, I've heard, in a fun way.
No, the secret that was Vexy Full Throttle and the Gear Grinders.
Oh,
but
okay.
Gallywix, so this is a new thing that Blizzard started fairly recently, like with the War Within, which is they providing a story mode of this boss kill. And by story mode, it means you go in there yourself and you can kill Gallywix. So you're able to complete the story of the zone right up to killing the last boss in the raid without ever raiding.
Okay.
Which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, I like that too.
So I went in there today to do the story mode version of Gallywix, and I forgot this from before, but you get 7 AI companions to come with you.
Oh.
Which is, I don't know, it's just hilarious to me because, like, the shaman is just, like, jumping all over the place. And stuff like that. And, I mean, yeah. And then there's, there's 1 or 2 characters that run into the telegraph. They don't take much damage, though. I mean, it's story mode. You're not meant to fail. It isn't a test. But,
you
so
get like
it gives
Leroy Jenkins who goes and pulls early and that kind of
So anyway, and then there's you not only get to see the end boss cinematic, which, I mean, I think I've kind of missed that in every raid, right? Because like you want to find, I mean, you don't want to get left behind if you're watching the cinematic, but here you get a chance to watch the cinematic. And Blizzard has this thing where the players don't actually kill the end boss. It's always something else. Like Thrall shows up, or the Titans show up, or somebody shows up.
Right.
Alex Straza shows up, and that's who kills Deathwing, and that's who kills the final boss. In this case, well, I guess I won't say.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a spoiler, but does it happen again or not? But that's the spoiler.
Happens again.
Okay.
It happens.
All right. Well, then we won't.
So, but then there's like epilogue, like there's after story where you go back with the goblins, the 4 goblins that are the stars of the story previously, and it's really a touching and heartwarming and you have to say touching into the story. Yeah.
Even the intro, you really started to like those, like the people you were hanging out with.
Which I don't associate with the goblin sort of archetype, I meant to say. So anyway, but it is a Blizzard thing. But I did love how the story ended and the note that it ended on.
Well, that's cool. Good. All right. Well, we'll keep up to date with you and your team and see how that goes. And follow your journey as you continue to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Quick rundown of the coming soon news, because we will be talking about it in 2 weeks. The next one that's up on the agenda, which will be, so our show 2 weeks from now will be Assassin's Creed Shadows. I am excited to see it. I know there's a lot of angst around not only how the game is going to turn out, but Ubisoft just in general is in a tough spot from a business perspective right now. And there's a lot of rumors around, are they negotiating to sell some of their IP or sell the company? Or so there's a lot of those things going around that are kind of like noise in the background. But we're certainly going to see what happens with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and if this is going to be one of those opportunities for people to have meta commentary around the game that's going to make them say it's a bad game when it is or isn't. So that's
Machete. Have you played any Ubisoft games like the Far Cry games or Assassin's Creed games?
I played the first Assassin's Creed game, but that was a long time ago.
Yep. I
have not, but I'm familiar with watching. I've watched YouTube videos of them.
And I've recommended to people that want to try them out right now. Ubisoft Plus gets you access to all the Far Cries, all the Assassin's Creeds, new things like Skull and Bones, the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which is a really good game. And then this game, which will be available on Ubisoft Plus on the 20th, day of launch. It's all of that, all for $18 a month. So you could just do 1 month and play a bunch of stuff, which is really kind of cool if you just want to see it.
So like I don't have any like firsthand gaming time in these games, but what I was going with is I've seen them, and one of the things that people quote unquote complain about is that they're all the same. And they are kind of, they're very story heavy, but it's sort of like saying books are all the same because they come in a binding and they have pages.
Yeah.
So it's like, they tell a story. This is their method for telling stories.
Yeah, they have a couple things like you open up an area of the map by like going and defeating the tower. And there's a couple ways to do that, but a lot of it's kind of like the same between Far Cry and Pandora. But it's still not bad. It's still not a bad.
Oh, that's kind of what I'm saying. It doesn't make it bad.
And people loved those games. So to have a different like lore and skin on top of that game, like we're about to talk about the Moria game. It's another survival game where you pick up stuff off the ground. You make an axe, you make a hammer, you make a torch. We get to do it in the mines of Moria as a dwarf this time, though, and that's cool. So you could say, "Oh, it's just another survival game." Well, yeah, it's just another survival game, and I want to play them all. And it's just another Ubisoft formula game. Yeah, and this one is on Pandora with all of the Smurf people. The Avatar people in the Avatar world. That's what everybody says because they don't know what the characters are called.
When somebody says, we're making this new MMO, but it's going to be different because it's going to have this and that and the other thing, and I'm like, well, but then I don't want.
But we like those things.
We like it. That's why we're playing those things. Yeah, but anyway,
we're not going to have dungeons and raids. We're going to have battle royale arenas, but I like dungeons and raids. I want that in my MMO. Why would I not want that? Okay, so there's that. And then the week after that, we're going to talk about, it might be a little bit longer than a week after that, that's coming out on the 27th, is Atom Fall, which I am fascinated by, and I'm definitely going to play that. I don't know if it's going to be nearly as big as these other ones, but sort of like that Fallout-y kind of feel of a game, semi-open world RPG set in a alternate universe, England, where a nuclear disaster has corrupted part of the English countryside. Looks really cool to me. I can't wait to play that. So Ubisoft, so we'll have Assassin's Creed, we'll have Atom Fall, and probably not going to play, but Inzoi is coming out on the 28th. And then we're keeping an eye on.
I'm interested in Inzoi, but the main reason I wouldn't play it is just because it sounds like the kind of thing that you play for a really long time and you get really into it, and that's where part of the joy comes from.
Yeah.
And I don't need another play a lot for a long time kind of game right now.
Yeah, and I don't need to give myself a job, a real life job in a game, and set myself on fire with grilled cheese sandwiches.
Is the new Fable game going to be Ubisoft?
No, I think Microsoft is publishing it, isn't it? It's a Microsoft published game, but no, that's not an Ubisoft. So no.
Oh, never mind then.
But it could. That would be one we would look for on Game Pass. I gotta look that up. I don't know when that's coming out though, so that hasn't been on my radar in terms of releases in the next month. But
there's no release date.
Oh yeah. That's like it's like at least a year out, isn't it?
So we'll at least.
Yeah. Okay. This podcast is brought to you by Garden and a Goat, the upcoming game from Contemplation Games. I think we might show off a new menu loading screen that we've got this week. So keep an eye on the feeds for that. GardenandAGoat.com. Jump in our Discord. You'll get to see a lot of the fun stuff ahead of time. Also, jump in our Discord if you want to be included. We're going to be picking just a handful of people for a first Alpha 1 playthrough of the game. That's going to be happening in about 2 weeks. So if you want to get in on that, if you're interested, it's going to be very, very few people that we pick, because what I'd like to do is pick some trusted people that I know will give us feedback, but not pick them all right at the first one, because I want people with fresh eyes each for Alpha 2 also, and for Beta 1 when we have that. So I feel like we're going to spoil some people when we show them the early thing, because they won't have as fresh a view when they get to the next one. So, but we are going to pick a couple people soon. Jump in the Discord. Also, this podcast is brought to you by Alea Iacta Est, AIE-guild.org. Machete, you're in that guild, aren't you?
I sure am.
Are we doing any Star Wars stuff this week?
I believe... Has the PvP season ended? Because
I think this is like the last week or second to last week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost over. Not quite.
Yeah, I know Stask runs a lot of all the PvP stuff on Wednesdays. I was on it for a while, and then...
Oh, that's right. You can't anymore.
Yeah, I can't. And then, of course, there's Fridays, which I'm not sure what's on the agenda for this Friday. But I think there was some chat that with the new season coming into play, and it bringing back the uprisings, that may try to roll those in on Fridays as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which are fun.
Uprisings on Fridays. And they're it's the same uprisings with a couple new abilities that you get to play with while you're in the uprising, which will be interesting to see how that works in a group content. So all of that, AIE-guild.org. This podcast is also brought to you by all of you out there. Thanks everybody for joining, listening, checking us out on the feeds, jumping in our Discord, chatting about games in there. We got some people together on Monday to play Return to Moria, which we're about to talk about. That was fun. That kind of came through both AIE and our community there on New Overlords Discord. Jump in there if you want to see some of the new games we're playing and come play them with us. That's a fun place to do it. Thanks everybody for hanging out in both of the chat rooms this week. Also, we've got chat rooms going on in both YouTube and Twitch. I still only have the one up on the screen, but I'm going to expand that out if we keep doing YouTube, which since there's people in there, we may keep doing. But now, listen to this.
Our story is more than what hobbits and elves know. It is time we told it ourselves.
Who is that voice? Oh, wait, listen to this also.
It looks like meat's back on our menu, boy. No way. God. Finally. Oh, my God. Oh, I kind of like the magical bread.
That voice, that iconic voice, it's really cool that they got John Rhys Davies to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very cool. In fact, everything about the voice acting in this game is pretty cool. I mean, not just the voice acting, but the written text or the storytelling. With very few words, they convey a lot, which I have so much admiration for.
Yes, good writing. So it's got good writing overall, and it's a good setting.
The setting's fantastic.
If you had to pick a way to do a survival game, this is kind of like a fun one, because it also, which does a thing which I really like, which is it gives you an objective. So we'll talk about that as part of this too. And it's a great place to have an objective. Machete, what were you going to say?
It has also a lot of a good lore in it as well. So
Mm.
you find a lot of bits and pieces, and it's fun just to read up on. It's just fun getting back into the Lord of the Rings realm again.
Right. It has some deep lore too. Yeah.
And I think it's really unique that it's a completely new setting. It takes place after the books, but at the same time it's very referential and very authentic feeling. I think that's I don't know, I just think that's fantastic.
Yeah. The lore bits, so you get a couple ways to sort of experience the lore bits as you go through. One of the ways is you come across like little pillars. Another way is you're like reading codex entries. Did you guys notice when you get to one of those little wizard marks on the wall? There's a codex entry kind of like associated with that as well. You translate it. They use Gandalf's dwarf name, which I didn't realize that that's what that was, and that's something I had to look up. Like who is Thrunz or whatever they. So that's like the dwarf word for what they call Gandalf, which is like staff wielder or something. So lots of little bits of good lore that they sort of pepper in a few different places, but you're not like stuck in that. You don't have to read all of that. You're not a lot of really long cutscenes. So you could just skip over all of that too, because it's a survival game, right? And it's a good one. So explain the story a little bit of Machete, and then, because that kind of sets it up, which I think sets it apart from other survival games and having that kind of story.
Yeah, so you're able to choose which area you're coming from, and then you get a call. I believe it was a call from Gimli. So you go, and then you get dropped into Moria because of an attack, and then now that you're there, you have to find your way back out. But in order to do that, you got to make sure that you prepare yourself to make your way through the mines and avoid all the dangers that lie within.
Yeah.
And I think they set that up in a kind of realistic way. Like you get catapulted in, but then the way they set it up that you're going to actually be stuck in there for a while, it makes sense to make a camp and to make yourself new armor, all that stuff, instead of a lot of survival games. You're just born on the beach with no nothing. Yeah.
Right.
Which I'm not saying that's bad. That's that's fine. But I just like this too.
You get trapped in, so this isn't really spoiler because it's part of the trailers and everything, but you get trapped in Moria. The idea was Gimli is now a leader of elves. He's going a little bit out on his own, but has put the call out. So yeah, you get to pick which kind of like flavor of dwarf you are, which was sort of like part of your character creation, which I kind of liked. But you get the letter, you could join Gimli. He's going a little bit on his own to say, hey, I want to go open up Moria. I want us to go back into Moria. And they're like, well, you should talk to Balin, or who's
no, should wait for, they're saying you should wait for Durin, but there is no Durin. So he's like, yeah, it's us or nobody. So we're doing it.
So we're doing it. We're not waiting. They can't get the doors open though. And they joke about, well, did you try to speak in friend? They can't get the doors open, so they're going to blow them open. You're in there. This is all part of the cutscene, the opening cutscene. You're in there, and then there's a cave-in as there's like setting these charges because you're going to try to blow open the door. You then get trapped in there by yourself in the cave-in. So you get trapped in there. If you play with other players, obviously they get trapped in there with you. You get around, you get to see the inside of the door, and it's locked by shadow runes. So now you know why the door couldn't be opened. So you're like, oh crap, it's locked. What are we going to do? We need to go out the other side. We need to go through the long dark of Moria. And we can't just prance around, and just walk on through, because it's still the whole idea was we were going to come in here and clear it out. We were going to battle the remaining forces of darkness, the orcs and goblins and spiders and wolves and badgers, badger, mushroom, badger, and fight your way through. I like that there's a direction, a path, a thing that you need to go and do. You're playing probably campaign mode as well, Machete, in your solo playthrough, because there's a thing called sandbox mode, which you still can do all. It sounded like you could still do all of the things. So you get to pick either campaign or sandbox mode. But if you pick sandbox mode, it sounded like you can still do all of the things, like progress all of the things that you can progress in regular mode too. So I don't really know what the difference is between sandbox mode and campaign mode. But
Yeah, that's a good. I'd have to look into that. I saw it there, but I didn't choose it. So maybe I create a new world and just see what it's about.
But it is kind of cool that you can have a sandbox mode. Anybody who plays survival games like this often likes to be able to have a long playthrough because there's a whole bunch of building to this, right? So you're building out the base, but you could build a giant base full of rooms and decorations and stuff. And if you do that in a survival game, if you're into that end of it, you don't want to just do a quick playthrough, although this isn't that quick. I've been playing 10 hours and I'm still only like in the second zone. Just got into like the third zone. But you don't want to like lose your castle that you built in the mines of Moria, and they call it a mine. So a sandbox where you get to keep that stuff and kind of like keep playing and keep it long term and focus on the decoration in the building. That's really cool.
I think one thing too, I mean, it's your first building or fort that you make. I mean, it's not your permanent one. And I think I made that mistake early on, thinking like, I got to get this all set up now. And then you get in a little bit deeper and you're like, I have to run back here every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you leave all your stuff back there too. So it's like, I wouldn't focus on really souping up your first base until you get to at least that second forge or the first forge.
Travel light, or early especially. Now they do have. Okay, so let's go through the features because we'll get to the quick travel, which late game I think will probably help with some of that, but early game definitely not. But what do we get? We get crafting. So just like the stuff you can make yourself, and then the stuff you make at tables. So I can make a torch, and I can make the basic pick, and I can make the axe. And then we had a couple of the basic tables. Quote unquote tables, crafting tables kind of get in survival games. Forges are one. What are the other ones that you've gotten to, Machete, that are beyond that?
So some of them are the same. So your furnaces where you harvest your iron, you get your iron ingots and your steel and silver. You eventually upgrade those to make the more later game materials that you're going to need. So I've had a few of those. You can upgrade your hearth, which is like your little fire pit where you can make your food, and it gives you a little area of how far out you can build from that.
Yep. The bigger the hearth, the bigger the build area that you get.
Yeah. There's an oven where with the hearth you're just making food for right there. Right? So once you get to a certain level, you can make an oven, and you can actually make food to take with you. So you can actually go out longer. Yeah. And then you have like it's like a snack. It'll, each one has its own different level of how much health it gives you. But yeah, once you get bronze, then you're able to.
Which I think I'm almost up to that. Interesting. I also saw like a roasting pit. What about the roasting pit? Is that
so they make a little bit more advanced meals.
Okay,
and
but that's still a meal generator. They did an interesting thing with the meal generators where you have to have the hearth, and then you have to have a table next to it, and then when you cook things, they show up on the table, and you can only eat them off the table at the beginning. Is what it sounds like. These more advanced, maybe the oven, you can make some lambus bread and bring it with you. But the eating off the table, I thought was a little interesting mechanic to like make it more of a meal. I did find it somewhat limiting though. Definitely found it limiting because there's 3 types, right? There's the breakfast, the lunch, and the dinner. If you eat it during that time of day, If you eat it outside of that time of day, it just fills you up, which you need to keep your meter full. If you eat it in the right time of day, it gives you a buff. So you want to eat the cranberries in the morning, you want to eat mushrooms in the midday, and you want to eat meat at night. The problem with that I found is if I wake up, I eat my cranberries, and then I go like to the next zone because I'm trying to mine some ore. I'll mine until night. I never like come back to eat another meal. It seems really awkward to try to say I need to like run back to the base to eat lunch. So I never really took advantage of like the other eating at other times of day kind of thing.
Yeah, it does give you a buff, but sometimes they don't last that long. So
That's also
what I'll
true.
usually do is I'll do the 2 cranberries because like you get your early bird buff and then you get second breakfast buff.
Oh,
But again,
really?
but it goes. I feel like it doesn't last long enough for me to run back to wherever I was
Right.
to get the benefits of
Right,
it.
right. None of the buffs last very long. You get a buff after you go to sleep for the night. You get like a well-rested
Yeah.
buff. But then I run
Well,
back to the mining node and it's 3/4 gone by the time I run back there.
once you start doing the monuments, so you can do so like as you're exploring, you'll come across fallen dwarves, and then you pay your respects to them, and you get like this hero token. And so you get enough of those, you can build monuments in your base, and that'll give you a buff that'll actually last longer.
Okay.
And then also when you get to making your own brews, those effects last longer as well.
Okay.
But you have to drink the whole thing for it to count, which I think is kind of weird.
Oh,
So it's like you have to take 6 sips out of it, and then you'll get the extended buff.
huh. Yeah, that is interesting. Now there's your little character, Sema. What have you crafted for yourself so far in your game? And then we all played it like just like the starter tutorial stuff before Monday, and then we all came in relatively fresh on Monday, except for Machete, who had been playing for a while and had like weapons that glow and a metal helm, and we're all like looking like scrubs next to him.
Come in all of my shiny shoes.
Yeah.
I've gotten some pretty cool stuff. I've got the first stage sword. So just kind of look at, they have all these the first stage sword, first stage great sword.
And that's like a tier, right? So there's
Yeah,
tier 1, tier 2, tier
there's
3. I think
yeah.
first stage is tier 3 or tier 4, isn't it?
Yeah, but what's interesting is that some of these items I'm looking on the website, I don't know if it's that I just haven't found the paper for it or what, but some of these items I don't have, and then I've jumped to the next tier. So
Yeah.
like for the spears, you have the Aragion spear, which everyone gets, and then there's the Rohirrim spear, and then there's the Belagast halberd. I have the halberd. I
Okay.
didn't find the Rohirrim spear yet, but yeah, it's cool. So when you say they're shining, that's when you get to the little rune table. So as you're harvesting all the materials, you'll come across like certain ones have specific stones to go along with it. So one may need sapphire, one may need onyx or jade or whatever, and then that particular stone, if you find, I think one thing that isn't on, there's like camps. So you find like little pages, and then they'll say like, oh, you've learned how to make this particular buff to your weapon. So you go to the table, and then you can put that buff on your weapon, but you can only do one. So what I found is, and I made this mistake, is like I put the same buff on all my weapons, but some enemies are impacted differently. So like a lot of the spiders, I find they do not like fire. So I have one weapon with fire, I have one weapon that's strong against orcs, and then I have one that is like electricity, and then there's one that's fire. Or I said fire. There's one that's ice. I haven't used ice.
Progression as far as that goes, and the different types of weapons you can want and need then to swap out. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it is important to look at the tier level. So a tier 1 weapon isn't going to hit as hard as a tier 2 weapon.
Yeah.
But they also take more damage. So you can build shields, right, which are recommended, but you can also use your weapon to block. So some of the weapons are two-handed. So the halberd's two-handed. The great axe and the great sword are obviously, or the steel battle axe and the great sword, those are obviously two-handed weapons. But the lower tier, if you use them to block, they will get destroyed faster. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so when you get into like the battling mechanics, sometimes it's better to do the roll dodge than to use your weapon or shield. Like if you're keeping an eye on the strength of your weapon. So if it's going down too fast, you may want to consider rolling, but then you got to manage your stamina.
Yeah.
You don't want to go zero
Mhm.
stamina, then you're kind of stuck.
So there's a bunch of crafting, and then there's like the more advanced crafting. Now, Sema, you probably got in and did a little bit of building.
Yes.
Talk about the building for a second, then we can get advanced building from Machete.
So yeah, the initial building is very easy and it gives you like a tutorial, but it is not long before, if you're running around picking up everything, it's not long before you just run out of inventory space. And I struggle with this in every survival game, so I'm not calling this one out. But
I think
it is
I kind of think it's extra bad in this game, but yeah.
Is it? Because I don't have a good way to compare, but I just that does get me.
You don't.
Yeah,
you-
100%.
I just
Yeah.
made I think this morning I played for like a half hour this morning before I just started doing work, and I think I just got the new pack and it doubles the size, and it's a huge difference because as you're adventuring around, there's a bunch of like ruins all throughout the mine. So and you want to like bust the crates and stuff that
Right,
are all over the
right.
ruins. But you only get like 10, you get like 10 slots. Yeah, I think you get 10 slots in your initial backpack.
And that's part of it with a new game. It's like you don't know what you can leave behind, what you can put in a chest, and what you have to have with you.
And
So it makes
you-
all those decisions more sort of brain weighty.
And yeah, so I wanted you need everything. You think you need everything, and you kind of do. There's a use for everything. So if I just I want to go find an iron node. I guess I'm walking through the iron node, but I'm like walking through a little bit of a ruin, and you still need like the cloth and wood and stone and metal. Those are like the basic
Coal.
materials. Then there's gems that drop, then there's seeds that drop, and then there's food items that drop. I'll get like 5 feet out of my little starting base, break 3 crates, and my inventory's full. And I didn't even get to the stupid, place I'm supposed to go mining. And okay, now I gotta go run back, drop all this, clear out my inventory again. I gotta not pick up anything on my way to clear some rocks out. That's one place the inventory was killing me. The second thing is, as you were saying, Machete, is you give you like a little place. It's like it's an abandoned camp kind of area. And the tutorial says, hey, fix this one up because it gives you a head start. It's got like a broken hearth, but you see the hearth there, you see the forge there, you see the smithy there, and you're like, oh, okay, this gives me an idea of the tables I'm supposed to be setting up. So you take some time, you set it all up, you get, to the next zone over, you're just like running for 3 minutes. But then you realize, oh, it'd be more convenient if I set up over here now. But now you've got like these pallet. I spent a lot of time running back and forth, trying to move at least some of my starting materials over to the place I was making a new base. And that's kind of a drag when you've only got 10 inventory slots too, because then you got to make 50 trips.
Yeah, one thing that I caught on to later is that you can build the pallets, right? So there's a pallet for wood, there's a pallet for stone, and you can
Yes.
go and you can just put it on that instead of trying putting it in one of the
Yes,
chests.
and those
So
hold a lot more.
they hold a lot more. And then another thing, so like if while you're out scouting, because it's dark, right? So you carry your essential ones, so like wood, stone, metal fragments. I will build torches and I'll put them where okay, I'm going to harvest this node. And so I'll put torches around to keep light there so I don't have to worry about a torch as much. If I need to drop the torch, then I can. And I'll do it down hall. I've done them down hallways, like a hallway right
Yep.
here. I would put them down there, and then if I don't need to carry a torch for that time, because
dump
if
some
it
of your
becomes dark,
inventory.
yeah, and then that way I open up space in my pack, because I don't need to bring wood because I'm gonna find wood where I'm going. You're gonna find stone where you're going. You're gonna find metal
Yeah.
fragments where you're going.
That's a good point.
You'll just get it later. So every time you come back to your base, you just dump everything, all the main items, and then go back out. And then you can also mark places on your map. So like if you're out, as you're out exploring, like, okay, here's a resource node. I'm gonna set up some torches and I'm gonna mark resource. I'm gonna go look over here. And so you can kind of plan out like, okay, here's one, here's one, here's one, and then I'm gonna dedicate a day to that spot, and then dump your pack, and then everything that you harvest there, you'll be able to bring back to your base and unload it there on another pallet. That's one thing that I started doing early on in the game.
You know what I was
you gotta
thinking
be
would be
careful.
cool is I had brainstorm on this of what they should do. Once you can start using the teleport, then there's other ways. You could like fill up your backpack and like move things all at once. But what if they give you like the pony? Like build the pony, and you could like load that up to like move bases, and you could like load the pony up and like escort the pony to the next one. That's my idea of what they should add to the game, a little expansion. Or I'll make an add-on. Build the pony so you can like move your base more easily. You just like load everything up on the pony and like move it all at once. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean the quick travel, the map stone, I think they're called map stones. You kind of have to be careful with those. So like if you get to a pre-made like an abandoned base, they usually have the map stones in there, but the required materials to get it are like the black diamonds, and those are a rare drop. And I read somewhere that they're a limited resource too. Like they're you won't just find a whole bunch. So even when you get somewhere, you may want to think twice before dropping a map stone as a quick travel point, because you may need that black stone later. And you can't, once you build the map stone, you can't destroy it.
You can't destroy it? Because you could destroy everything else.
No, you can't. I found that out the hard way.
Oh.
And it's the same thing with your weapons. You don't want to make too many weapons either, because you can't destroy those.
Break down the weapons, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you got it's resource management that you need to kind of take into account.
Because all the other stuff, like, and like, go ahead.
What happens to a weapon if you know how you have it gets less and less, then you have to repair it? What happens if it goes all the way down to 0?
The repair smithy, that's where you use the repair smithy.
But if it's at 0, it stays in your backpack with an X on it that it doesn't work, but it still sits there.
But it's still there.
Recover the materials out of it. Yeah. That's another add-on that we'll make, is you can break down the map stones.
Like the wood, the stone, and the metal fragments, they're everywhere. So I mean, I'm not worried about running out of those. But yeah, definitely.
Although I did find the different zones have more or less of them. Like I could not find metal fragments in the second zone, the second area, the Elven one. I had to like go back and get all my metal fragments out of my. So yes and no. I mean, most of the basic ones are, and you can find it, but it does seem like there's more or less in some places.
Yeah.
But that's fair.
Yeah.
But that's fair. And it's not that long. I mean, the map's not that big to run from like, so the third zone is the mines. You get to the mines of Moria, and there's like it's like pushing you along, and you do need to go up the progression. You need the steel pick. You can't just, there's a starter pick. There's then you need to get the steel pick, or is there an iron pick even in between? Anyway, you need the steel pick. Yeah. So you need the third tier pick before you can even get to the third zone, because you're blocked by a strong wall. But that's okay. I like that kind of progression is part of the fun. And it's not that far. So like, even if I needed to run all the way back to the start of the game from down in the mines, it's not that far. It's a couple minutes of running, but it's not terrible. It's just if you need to go back and forth 10 times, because you got to like if you put a pallet full of stone, that'll fill up your whole starter backpack. So if you say you wanted to like fully move your starter base down into the mines, that would literally take you an hour of running back and forth.
It would be nice to, so like a lot of the ore that you find, you can only hold 30 at a time, but yeah, you can hold 99 stone, you can hold 99 wood, you can hold 99 metal fragments. Yeah, like why can't I have 99 ore fragments, so it doesn't, take up so much space in my pack. So I just find that kind of weird, that why just those are you can only carry 30.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyway, this overall, I just want to make sure we're hitting on all the points. That the idea of the progression, you're trying to get through the mine, and that's why you're establishing like the next forward base. And to get into that next area, you need the progression. The monsters. Oh, so what monsters have you fought so far, Sema? Just like the starter ones.
Goblins, wolves, that one like dog-like thing that has a different name.
The
That's about
badgers. Looks like a big badger.
badgers. Yeah, it did look like a big badger.
Yeah, I like the badgers. When I think of them as badgers. Rats. What else?
I mean,
What
they
else was
killed
there
me the
that-
first time, the badger, because I was trying to punch it to death, and it was biting me harder than I was punching it, apparently. But since you don't know how much health you have or how much health it has, you don't know if you're winning.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I wish there was a
There's a
hit
good point.
marker on all of them.
No
as well.
health bars. You do see there's damage numbers, but no health bars, and you don't know how much health they have.
The bosses have a health bar.
The
but
bosses
not-
have a health bar. You're right. Yeah,
I
that's
haven't
nice.
I haven't seen any bosses, but yes, that would help.
That is useful. And then I got down into the mines, and in addition, and I just found this out this morning, in addition to the different types of goblins, so we had goblin men, which are man-sized goblins. There's goblins,
Oh yeah, I did fight those too. Yeah.
and then there's orcs, and then there's spiders. So there is spiders.
Yeah. That's
So,
the one
like-
thing that
Oh, cave
Since
bears.
there's
too.
goblin
There's
men, which are like bigger goblins, are there also like goblin giants, which would be even bigger goblins?
Oh, good point. Are there rat men? Are there goblin rats, which are small goblins? I don't think so.
no, I'm looking at the creature list. I'm not seeing that.
Cave bear. The cave bears are kind of cool. The cave bears are kind of
Yes.
chill also. You don't have to, you can like kind of ignore them. And what I found is like when I was in the Elven Quarter, I left the cave bear alone because the cave bear kind of like stomps around. And if it like stomps on a tree, it knocks down the tree and leaves the resources on the ground. So it was like my little farming buddy. I would like just let it like roam the zone and stomp around. And then once in a while I would like run behind wherever it was and pick up all the junk off the ground. I was pretty happy to do that.
If running around killing things is not your idea of fun, you can set the game on, I think it's called story mode, but it's like an easy mode. So not only are the fights easier, but your aggro radius is smaller.
Oh, nice. So were you
Yeah.
playing? I meant to ask you that. Are you
Yeah,
playing
I
the
put- I
solo
put it
mode
on.
on the easy?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because even the middle grade that I'm playing, normal mode that I'm playing, is kind of hard. You do need to learn how to dodge. You need to learn how to block, and you need to learn how to run away. So let's finish by talking about that, which is a fun part, and I think we'll see it here in our video. The video that I'm playing here behind us is 7 or 8 of us by the end of the night. You can only have 8 concurrent. More people can join a server, but only 8 at once, and that's a hard cap. But I think we had 8 of us, and if you're playing with multiple people, the progression of like when enemies show up and what resources you get is a little bit more, but some of the stuff is still limited in resource. But there's the idea of the goblins and the stuff in the mines. In the first 2 zones, they're like hear you goofing off and once in a while come and raid you. But you don't get that meter, I noticed, until you get down into the mines. Right, Machete?
Yeah.
The meter,
They-
because when I go back upstairs, it was shutting off. But we'll talk about that meter in a second because I like it.
Yeah.
But did you get a raid on your, or like there's a raid on your
Siege.
base, a siege on your base, or just a horde comes after you? Did you get any of
Right.
those in the easy mode, Sema? How did that work?
Oh yeah, I totally did. I got a siege, and it was frustrating because I hadn't built weapon and shield yet, so I was just watching them break everything.
That is a bummer.
I tried punching them, but what I didn't know is I could have made an axe and a shield way before that, like
Yeah.
way back when it first tells you to make your torch. I think you already at that point had the recipe, but I wasn't smart enough to, look at my recipe because I thought the tutorial was going to say, okay, and now make an axe and now make a shield and now we'll show you where the goblins are. But nope, they're like, You're on your own, and here's some goblins.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, games don't have to explain everything.
And this is the part of the game in the video where I was yelling at Stask because there's these holes in the walls. So the raid will come and like break your stuff and like break parts of your walls and stuff. But these were broken by Stask. He was like, there's bunches of piles of like detritus around and like piles of rocks. And Stask was like clearing those out and not realizing that when you hit your pick in the ground, it also does a little bit of AoE damage. And it was too close to the walls of the building. And he made Stask said he still insists that it wasn't him. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I thought it was him outside the wall that I saw mining.
That reminds me of when I came to your dinosaur pen in Ark and like let out all your dinosaurs by destroying the gate or something. And I think actually the gate was in my inventory.
Oh yeah, you did, because you could like pick things up. Oh, Dent is asking in the YouTube chat about elves. I probably missed that a while back. Sorry about that, Dent. You do get to a hidden elven quarter in like an off area of the mines as you're like going down in there, and your dwarf comments on it and is sort of like really surprised. What the hell is this? Why were elves down here? Why is there an elven quarter? There is like lore explanations for it and stuff that you can sort of look into too. And you do need to explore it. And there is an elven forge you need to turn on. Pro tip, if you do get to the elven forge, they give you recipes to make the repair components to repair the forge. You don't need those recipes because the parts you need to repair are also just sitting around the area. You can go find them. And okay, so you get the hordes. You get that will just come and bother you, and then you get the raids, sieges, which will come and bang on your base. But one of the techniques is just to wait them out. You don't have to kill all of them. Kill all the people. Well, goblins are people too. You don't have to kill all of the siege members. You could just kind of like kite them and run away. And then after some amount of time, and how long has it been for you? And does it get longer and longer in the advanced raids, or is it still only like 5 minutes?
I think the time frame is still the same, but the level of orcs and goblins get stronger.
Yes.
But yeah, you do not have to fight them all, which something especially in solo content, because it's very easy to get overrun, is I will build like the temporary platforms. And when I know it's getting close, I'll wait for them to get there and I'll just jump up the platforms. But now in the earlier hordes, they're easy, but now I can't do that as much because they'll start attacking the platforms and then I'll fall. Yeah. And then they'll destroy all my lights and stuff around the cave. So
yeah,
usually
you don't have to wreck your stuff too much. And they start to get archers and that kind of thing too. And so it's not
and bats will come and on later ones. So you have to make sure you're watching out above you too. But one thing, when you're harvesting a resource node, I like to angle my way up. So like I'll jump up and then I'll just keep hammering upwards. So I keep kind of climbing up and then I'll resource it from the top down.
Yep.
So that way, if a horde comes, I just hide back there. They can't get to me, and then they eventually leave.
Yes.
So that's how I survive most of my hordes, especially early game.
Yeah. You can run away. You can kite them a little bit. You can, which you kind of meant to. It seems to me, in some of those instances, because they do get harder and harder, and there's a lot of them, and there's multiple waves. But you don't want them to break your stuff either. So you do need to deal with that and maybe set up some extra defensive fortifications and prepare yourself and prepare your fort and your base. Okay, there's Stask's character. Does everyone notice Stask's character? What its name is? It's Mjolnir as opposed to Mjolnir. Very clever. Very clever. So now here's the little, when you're down in the mine, everything that you do, and there's a couple other survival games that do this, where the more progress you make, like the more building you're doing in your base, the more it increases a meter that makes the next raid happen. The way the meter works in this game is it's a kind of like a little Eye of Sauron type looking symbol in the lower right. So it's a shadow eye. And everything you do, like if you mine something, you'll see a little pulse go out from it. And it starts to get, like more and more solid, more and more filled up. And when it fills up, that's when you know a raid is going to come. Stask says it's pronounced Jonathan. That's another joke of ours. It's spelled Mjolnir, but it's pronounced Jonathan. So I like that, so that you can have some prediction of when the raid is coming. I like the meters that fill up. Conan Exiles does that in the same kind of way, where it's also based on amount that you build and the things that you're crafting, and that's what's filling up a meter. So that's pretty cool.
Sometimes too, if you're not paying attention, you could easily wander into a place that already has like a higher level of danger. So like
Yes.
if you're walking around like, oh, there's nothing going on there, and you're just not paying attention, and you go off somewhere else, and then all of a sudden you walk into a danger area, and you start, you hit a wall twice, and it's like the horde's here, and you're like, oh, what? Like, how did that happen?
And then you'll get a really bad horde, because each of the zones is got its own level of the tier of the zone. I think then also corresponds to the tier of the enemies that they're throwing at you. So like I got down to the mines, and the other thing they'll do is your weapons basically become ineffective, and will end up doing 0 damage if it's 2 tiers above your current weapon. If it's only 1 tier above, your dwarf keeps yelling out while you're in combat, "I need a stronger weapon for this." And he like keeps yelling. And I'm like, I know, but I got to kill these guys. So keep fighting, bro. That's what I was doing this morning. Dodge. Oh, there we go. And now a horde is coming. So we all had to run back to our base. So that was fun last night. And with all 8 of us doing stuff, the meters were filling up relatively quickly. So we did get a horde that came. Most people ran back to the base, and we just sort of like waited it out for the most part. I think we're okay. Can you repair your base while they're banging on the door?
I thought about that, but I usually just go out there and fight them. I would think you can. So there's different tiers of materials. So the initial walls that you build are just like those stone walls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you get a little bit further into the game, you get a new stone. I think it's called Iraz granite,
Run
and that
away,
gives you granite
Sema.
walls. And it takes longer for the goblins and orcs to destroy those. So with those ones, yeah, you probably could sit there and repair it while they're beating on it until they go away.
So here's a big orc in armor. My measly weapons won't do anything to it. We had Machete down here who had like these advanced weapons, but even he was getting overwhelmed. And I told Sema, run the enemies to Machete, which you did, but then you stood there. I'm like, and then run away. But you kind of stood there, and they were like beating on you too. But you lived, didn't you? Did you die?
No, I lived that particular time. I lived.
I think Machete died.
No, I got close.
Oh yeah,
That's why I had to run and grab food real quick.
Oh, that's right. You ran back and ate food.
Oh yeah.
And then I climbed up on this ledge and stayed up here long enough away. I kind of got away from this archer. But that was fun. I like that. The raids in a group, when you're with a group of people, that really made it more fun. Because then it was like, then we're all just like running around, and nobody cares if you die. And if you die, somebody else can like res you where you lay. You don't have to just like go back to the base.
Right. And then you don't have to pick up your stuff either, I saw.
Yeah.
Right.
That was pretty fun.
That's the worst when you're in solo and you get defeated, and your pack is all the way down, hundreds of fathoms beneath you.
Yes.
And you're like, oh man.
Even if you make a camp bed, like, halfway or, down in the new area, if you don't click on it and make it your bind to it, you only get to bind to one bed where you res. So I did this.
Right.
I died down in the mines, and I resed back at the starting location. I'm like, oh crap. That was the last bed I slept in? I guess so. That was a long run back down there into the middle of an orc camp that I had to like run in, grab my stuff, but it's only with like one button. You can like run in and run away.
Right.
So I lived.
Yeah,
problem.
I was scarred early on in life because I used to play this game where when you died, you would drop all your stuff, and then yes, you'd be like a zone away, and you'd have to run back naked.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the mobs that killed you would have picked up your stuff.
Ah, that's a bummer.
And so you had to. They had your special enchanted weapon and your high power armor.
You need like two sets of weapons.
Yes. The conventional wisdom is your special enchanted weapon, one of a kind, you don't take out with you into the world. So you had to like make that as a decision. But also, it was also a game sort of like hardcore WoW currently, where when somebody died, everyone in the game knew it. And so usually people would drop what they were doing and come help you get your stuff back.
Yeah.
But that was the most extreme death drop stuff game I played, and I played it for a long time, so I'm kind of inured to the whole like, oh, I can pick up with one click, I don't have to kill anybody for it, and it all fits.
Nice. Noobs. Back in my day.
Right.
I had to fight the monster naked and take my gear back off its dead corpse. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, overall, obviously, you're liking the game. You're out of a score of A+ to 1 to B. Out of 4 stars to grade F. What would you give the score of the game, Machete? You're gonna keep playing it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna totally keep playing it. There are some things that I would like to have adjusted. So the numbers, like the space that you can, or the amount of stuff you can carry, I'd like that to be updated. The battling is kind of tough. Like it takes a minute to get used to that.
And as Sema says, as our new resident, and actually did research into like fighting mechanics, it is a little bit floaty. It's not great combat. You like swing in a direction and you think you should have hit because you're the right distance and you're not. And, am I doing enough damage? And there's no health bars. I don't even know if it's going to take, 5 hits to kill this thing or 50.
Right.
The combat's okay. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and like it's
not a main feature. Yeah.
A lot of the tutorials could be better, but I guess if it was out of a score of 10, I'd give it an 8. I mean, there's still room that can be improved on it, but I'm really enjoying it. I really like I like survival based games because I really find myself paying attention to my surroundings a lot more, and you'll find like, yeah, you're in a mine and you have a low ceiling, but sometimes if you get into an opening and you look up, there may be like an opening or a ledge up there, and you're like, huh, and then you'll build platforms and you go up there and you'll find like, oh, there's a statue that needs to be rebuilt, or there's a camp up here, like it's fun because it gives you different options, and then like trying to figure out like, how am I going to get up there, like what are the best ways to do it.
There's good exploration in this game too, and the discovery. And that reminds me, some of the areas have set pieces that are kind of like set, and the zone is set. As you get deeper and as you progress, there are side areas that are procedurally generated. So there will be kind of like different between different maps, which is kind of fun too. So there'll still be like a little bit of extra discovery and exploration that you'll be able to do in other playthroughs.
Yeah.
How about you?
I don't know if.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say just I don't know if during your guys' playthrough the camps and like the pages and stuff, have you fulfilled one?
No,
not yet.
I not me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I picked some up. I've got the recipe for the bookshelf that you're supposed to collect them in, but I haven't done that yet.
Right. Well, because I'm wondering, because you find more of those pages. Like I filled up a journal entry, but I keep finding pages in that area, and they're only specific to that area. So I'm wondering, it's like maybe there's camps that I'm missing, but
I think it's just extras because it's the same like the little statuettes. You get like the tribute to Ori, and it's like then you put like 5 of the Ori statues into the tribute pedestal, and then you can open it and you get like 5 treasures out of it.
Right.
But there's like 12 Ori statues around the zone. So I keep picking up more Ori statues and don't need them and have nothing to do with them. So maybe it's the same with the pages.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
So how about you, Sema? Should we do another Monday night playthrough? Get us all and go to the next zone?
Well, I think so. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
What sets this game apart for me is the setting. Like you said, who wouldn't want to be a dwarf exploring Moria, right? Kind of like with Ark, who wouldn't want to have a bunch of dinosaurs at your beck and call? Unlike
Yes.
Vampire Rising, like I don't want to be I have no desire to be a vampire, or Conan, I don't want to be a slave master or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think of myself as an RPer,
but
those things do matter.
Yeah,
to me, apparently.
It's a good setting. It's good lore. It's good characters. You get to it's done well. And yeah, you're right. And that does help. And that does definitely make a difference. There's a lot of this game is similar to a lot of other survival games, but you get to be a dwarf surviving Moria. So even if it's exactly the same as, say, like Valheim, just like all the same progression, all the same weapons, being able to be it as a dwarf in Moria and like find your way through Moria, that's a fun twist. I would play that game. So that's cool. All right. Well, maybe we'll do that again. Maybe we'll play it again one night. Maybe we'll play it a little bit solo. I would rank it as definitely my top 10 survival games to play. Probably not my top 3, but it's a good one. It's a solid one. It's a fun one out there. There's probably some other higher tier ones like Valheim and Ark, obviously for me, a few games like that, different twists on survival and exploration that I like.
We didn't do this with Ark,
this is good.
And maybe it's possible, but I like the fact that if I wanted to, I could log in and just play by myself, figure things out, go do some mining and some building, and still join the group when we have a group night.
Yes. So the fact that you can play in a solo map, and you can do this with a lot of the survival games. You can do it with Valheim. You can do it with Ark. I recommend this actually. Have a group map that everybody is going to go to, and then have a solo map where you play on off nights and only play the group map on the group nights. Because then what you get is the opportunity to go through the solo parts where there's story or you're building your own base where everybody can do a thing. And then on the group night, you don't mind that, somebody else is building the thing because you've built a thing. You build that, I'm going to go mine a thing, or I feel like mining now, and and you feel like building. It doesn't matter. You don't feel bad because you missed out on learning the thing.
The fun when you're together is exploring and the fighting and finding, but the building and the mining and stuff in a group is just the same as it is by yourself, or worse.
Right. And reading the lore entries and talking to the Raven and things like that, which you do miss in the group content too. Cool. All right. I think that is good for us for now, and we shall see. Yeah, maybe we'll do a little bit more. Maybe we'll find another survival game. We'll see. Well, there's other ones coming later this year. Maybe we're all going to get Gom Jabars in our necks this summer and play a little Dune Awakening together. That would be fun. For me. So we'll see. If you want to keep up with our survival adventures and anything else we might be playing, 2 weeks from now, or will we be able to talk about it next week? No, I think it's going to be 2 weeks for Assassin's Creed Shadows, stuff like that. You can catch us on newoverlords.com. That's where all our video goes. YouTube/New Overlords is where that gets published, but all the feeds are there. All the links are newoverlords.com, including the link to our Discord. Come join us in our Discord. Come chat with us, see what we're playing, see what you can join. We've got the notes in there so that you can come hang out with us in the Mines of Moria right now. If you want to maybe join our next Monday night, if we've got slots. Didn't like that there was an hard 8-person cap, but performance-wise, they've got to limit it at some point. But we'll try to get as many people in there as we can. newoverlords.com/Discord for that. You can also follow on all the social networks, and we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.